Welcome back to the P.H.Y.S Podcast. I'm your host, Tyson Martin. Today's guest is Shayd Johnson, a photographer whose work is rooted in authenticity, connection, and a deep appreciation for the natural world. Based on the Sunshine Coast of British Columbia, Shayd has spent years documenting the diverse landscape and communities of the province. From remote mountain peaks to rugged coastlines to intimate portraits and everyday human moments, his photography blends storytelling, emotion, and a strong sense of place, creating images that feel both honest and timeless. In this conversation, we explore Shayd's journey into photography, his connection to the outdoors, the lessons learned from living in a small town, and how curiosity, conversation, and human connection continue to shape his work behind the lens. This is a conversation about storytelling, adventure, creativity, and finding meaning in the moments that often go unnoticed. This is the P.H.Y.S Podcast. Now let's get to the show. Hey, it's Tyson here. I'm just jumping in real quick to give a huge thank you to Kieran, Helena, Devin, and the entire Harlow team for believing in this show and the vision behind it. Your support has meant more than you know. From day one, you've backed not only my podcast, but the bigger idea that creativity, storytelling, and community matter. Thank you for continuing to champion these conversations and help make them possible. I truly appreciate each and every one of you for everything you've done, from providing me gear, allowing me to do giveaways, and just straight up supporting the show. And if you're looking to pick up some of the best lighting gear on the market while supporting the show at the same time, check out Harlow using the link in the description. Thank you for being part of the journey. Now let's get to the show.
Yeah, I'm Shayd Johnson. I'm a photographer based on the Sunshine Coast. I grew up on Vancouver Island, spent most of my career in Vancouver, and I'm in semi-retirement now on the Sunshine Coast.
Must be nice. I love the Sunshine Coast. I've got family that own quite a few homes on Keats.
Oh, yeah, I love Keats. Yeah, that's a nice spot.
Nice.
Yeah.
So semi-retirement. What does semi-retirement mean to you?
I just mean more just as a lifestyle component, moving to a smaller community again and taking a bit of a different approach to life over here. So as far as work goes, not in any sort of retirement phase, but my lifestyle, I'm amongst the retirees over here. So consider myself semi-retired in that aspect.
That's amazing. But yeah, I mean, people who don't know the Sunshine Coast, most of the communities along the coastline there are very small. Everybody seems to know each other. Beautiful area, very relaxing. My kids are actually Seashell, First Nation.
Oh, cool.
So they have a big connection to that area. What drew you there? Just wanting to be back, a little simpler life?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my partner and I both grew up in smallish towns on the coast, and I love the city. I love being able to spend time there and work there or travel to other cities. But just as far as quality of life, I think being in a small town, especially on the coast, has a very special feeling. And Joni Mitchell, as she spent a lot of time up here. Sometimes she's spotted just up in Half Moon Bay, north of here. So, it's just kind of like a interesting artistic community that's full of character and charm. So that's what drew me here.
Nice. I would love to be on the Sunshine Coast. I mean, it's I find that style of life. I grew up in a small town outside of Portland, Oregon. So I grew up in a smaller community. I grew up with acreage, and I could ride a dirt bike to school if I wanted without question. Like
I love that.
Right? Like there was really no rules. Like we would leave Saturday mornings from my house with our rafts and hop in this creek system that was like an 8-mile loop with our fishing poles and our lunches, and we just it would be a blast for the full day. We'd be gone all day till dark.
I love that.
you
Yeah.
know. And then I moved to the heart of Vancouver at King Edward and Dunbar, and it took me a good month before I could have a solid sleep because it was so loud.
Yeah,
You know.
it's always funny like now living here and going back and staying at friends' places in the city and like the noise. I'm used to be so unbothered by it for years, and then now I go back and I could barely sleep. So
So you
yeah.
feel exactly what I went through.
Yeah, 100%.
Amazing. Well, let's break into some of your backstory. Let's break into where the camera became a part of your life, or where you started to discover that taking photos meant something to you more than just a click of a shutter.
Yeah, I mean, I have kind of my background really is I moved to LA when I was 18, pursuing acting. So I was never really serious about it, but I thought, you turn 18, you kind of are in a crossroads whether you're going to go to university or whether you're going to go traveling. And I was always drawn to acting, the arts in general. And I was just young and kind of stupid. So I moved to LA. I packed my bags and moved there when I was 18 to pursue acting. And shortly realized after being there, I kind of got lucky with a roommate situation, and the roommate was, you know, pretty cool. He did a lot of work in graphic design in the movie industry. So I think it was my second day in LA at 18. I got invited to a Golden Globes like event with him. So to come from, my small town on Vancouver Island and end up in Los Angeles at that type of event was pretty eye-opening right away to just the possibilities of, building connections with people and kind of seeing where life can take you. And it happened so quick there for me. And I felt, pretty lucky that once I kind of started pursuing the acting thing there, I realized everybody else was also trying to pursue the acting thing. And I didn't really know if I was serious about it or to what extent I'd be serious about it. So anyway, I ended up meeting this agent and getting some background work, basically being an extra. And I was on a movie set with Orlando Bloom and Mark Ruffalo and Juliette Lewis and these like pretty well-known actors performing their craft right in front of me and looking at them and realizing that I would never be that passionate about the craft. And literally, I was having this realization at the same time as the set photographer showed up on set, and he had this camera at the time, like when digital cameras first came out, they were noisy as hell. So he had this like giant box with cushioning in it, and that's how he was taking his photos so that you couldn't hear the shutter while they were rolling sound. And I was just fascinated by this, and he was such a cool guy. And I was like, I just started asking him questions in between takes about what he was doing. He's like, "Yeah, I'm on 3 movie sets today, and I just go around and everything's already lit for me, and I just show up and get amazing behind the scenes photos on movie sets." And like, really, that was the turning point for me of where I became interested because I saw not only a career but just a creative profession that was different than anything I'd ever seen before. So that's kind of where, the I guess the passion began.
That's funny that you mentioned, like, yeah, I was on a movie set with these famous people and looked at them and said, nah.
I think that's the thing though, when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, you're kind of a sponge still on the world and like what the possibilities could be. You have no responsibilities, so you can kind of just take these directions and see where they go. So I don't know. I think that's the beauty of being that age and just kind of looking for new things
Yeah.
just presents itself sometimes. So
Yeah, I mean, I grew up, man, from the time I could ride a bike, racing BMX and, riding street. And then I found a skateboard in 84. And that was still to this day at 51. I hear kids going down the sidewalk on a skateboard and I'm all looking.
you're like, do a kickflip.
I should start saying that, or if they can't, I should show them how to do it and watch
Yeah,
myself
exactly.
hurt myself again. Um, but it's just like, it was my passion. It was the creative outlet and the spark that I found that worked for me. I was forced to play all the sports growing up. My dad's like, you're a big guy. You're going to play football. You're going to make it to the league, blah, blah, blah. Typical story of an American kid.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was forced to play hard. I played hard. I'm mid 20s in major concussions currently. Um, it's affected my whole life. And I remember the day I quit was the best day. I said, I'm never going to play a team sport. I am going to skateboard. And that was
Mm.
up into my late teen or late 20s, I was still pretty heavily into it. And then it started getting hurt more. So it slowly tapered off. And then I did my ankle in my mid 30s, and that was it. And
Oh boy.
and now I bought another board, but bigger, softer
Yeah.
wheels, harder to flip, harder to do tricks on. I just want to cruise in the
Yeah.
skate parks now.
That's
But
nice.
yeah, finding
Yeah.
that creative outlet again is what really drew me back into, um, it's what made me fall in love with photography. It wasn't something I did at all. I had cameras growing up, but just to take snaps. I mean, I've been a dad since I was 20, so like taking snaps of kids, of dogs, of hey, look at that. No composition skill, no any skill, just a typical snapshot. But when I had to figure out a way to work myself out of a slump of in a mental situation, I found a camera and I clicked the shutter and it gave me that excitement again. And then I dove into YouTube University and it went crazy. And it's continued to for the last, I mean, it's been 6 years solid now of really going after what I want. And then I found the show, and now the show's taken over and the show's blown up and it's been amazing. So, it's cool to finally see like it's okay to do these things you didn't think you should do.
Hmm.
Growing up being
So
told the arts aren't for you because you need to play sports, you know.
yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
did you always find like solitude in individual sports, like you're saying skateboarding? I feel like there's a big like comparison to that type of thing and photography, because photography is very like it's an individualistic up outlet, I guess,
Yeah.
similar to like skateboarding. When you're like on a skateboard, it's just you and the board, the concrete, and like your abilities to do a trick or to get places or whatever it is. And I feel like I've noticed a lot of skateboarders are really interested in photography because it's probably another, similar outlet.
Yeah, I always found like when I started getting really into skateboarding and started to progress and started, attracted sponsors, you'd go on these big outings with, there could be 20 people there, but I'm always in my own head. It's me. That's it. Like, you get excited if someone else does something, but it's so individual. It was like snowboarding. Or, you'd go on a bike ride in a group ride, and then I would find a way to turn off from the group ride and explore by myself.
Yeah,
Because
I've been in a similar boat. Like I've never been a team sport guy ever. And snowboarding was definitely one of my outlets when I was younger. I tried skateboarding, but I can never break past the barrier of like after landing an ollie, like kickflip was kind of the next trick, and I never got that far. But I love going to the skate park and just, headphones in, kind of just cruising around like how you probably skate now. You just roll around the features, and like that's kind of my style. But yeah, snowboarding was always like probably my favorite sport growing up, because it was an individual sport. You could still be social and go out with people, but you're in control of it. You're not on a team where you have to rely on other people or like think about other people. And so, yeah, I never really thought about it until you brought it up, but I think that's probably that relationship exists for me as well for photography.
it's really weird when you start to start. When you put things together and
Hmm.
you realize how I did it as I really took skateboarding on as a big FU to my dad because he hated it. Hoodlums, punks. He knew like when I was in trouble, the two things he could take away from me were my dirt bike and my skateboard. And it would make me crazy. I had a mini ramp in my backyard. He would lock it up.
Oh man.
And he would just do these things to try to get me to go back to football or go back to baseball or get back into boxing and do all this stuff that I met great people. I had great time. Some of them went on to do great things in those sports, but it just wasn't me. After like, you know, ringing my bell as many times as I had and starting to see the effect. Oh, look at my Osmos following me. um, it's, it was such a refreshing moment. I remember going by to get to the skate spots where I grew up in the small town. I had to go right by the practice field. And I remember the first time the guy stopping and pointing at me and the coaches turning around and me just giving the double birds going down the hill. And I was like, that felt so good.
Yeah.
And, then I love self-expression. I love graffiti. I love just anybody who can really dive deep into themselves and find the one thing that's kind of out there, like photography. As much as people think it's not kind of out there, it's kind of out. It's a kind of out there profession.
It is. You really hear it from like family members, especially like you go to a wedding or something and they're like, "Oh, you're still doing that photography thing," like they don't understand like, "Oh, so you make money enough money to like pay your rent?" They just like they can't fathom that A, it's a career, or B, like why anyone would do something beyond just like taking photos of their kids on their iPhone.
Right?
So,
I got the same thing. So 2 years ago, when I was at my father-in-law's 90th birthday, and people, because I've worked in the same industry for 30 years, I work in the off-road industry. I help people build their dream rigs.
oh,
That's what
like what? Tell me more.
I'm the sales manager for Adams Off-Road Shop in Langley. So,
Okay.
so we basically take whatever your base vehicle is,
Yeah.
and you have a dream.
Yeah.
My team can make it
Dream
happen.
rigs, like dream rigs.
Like people coming in with brand new $120,000 vehicles and spending 150K
Oh,
upgrading
right.
them.
Okay. So big money. I'm an off-road guy too. I'm into Land Cruisers. So
Nice.
I've had a
Beautiful.
few over the years, and right now I have a 70 series diesel Land Cruiser, and I love it. But like
Sick.
I don't need to do anything to it. Like it's so capable.
Yeah.
I take it, I have good tires and little lift kit, and it just goes.
Well, if you need tires or anything, I can help you out.
All right.
I've done a few vehicles on the Sunshine Coast.
Oh,
We
cool.
get quite a
That's
few
awesome.
people that will come to us and drop their vehicle off for a couple days so we can do even their basic maintenance.
Oh, cool. Okay. Good to know.
I was the weirdo. I drove a Delica.
Oh, I like Delicas though. They're cool.
They're
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
I'm still sad I sold it. I was having transmission issues,
That's what I've heard. You're
and
not the only one.
the day the guy was coming to get it, I was like, I wonder if this is just not set right. And there's a little transmission shift sensor that you had to calibrate, and I was like, I'm just gonna not even gonna get the voltmeter out. I'm just gonna turn it a bit and tighten it. I did that. The thing drove the best it ever drove, and the guy showed up an hour later, and I watched it drive away. And I was like, oh,
Oh, yeah, that's sad.
like 25
Oh,
hundred
yeah.
bucks. And I was like,
Yeah.
for an L400 Super Exceed, I'm in. And I
Yeah,
think
totally.
I sold it for 13 US.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
A lot of people don't understand that certain vehicles can appreciate in value. It's
yeah,
like, you buy a BMW off the lot, it loses like 40K in the first year, but like you buy an old vehicle that is actually good for a good price, you can actually make money on it one day.
yeah, for sure. And they're getting harder to find. They're getting harder to find in good shape. And people will pay extra if that vehicle is solid.
Hmm. A little bit of a detour here, but that was great.
That's, you know what? That's what this show's all about, man. It's a genuine conversation. It is about whatever we talk about, and people love it. This I was at this wedding, and they're like, "Oh, you still doing this?" Yeah, but I'm starting this podcast, and I have a really good feeling about it. It's different than everybody else's, and I think it's going to make a mark. And they're like, "Yeah, but just for fun, right?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you describe as fun? Because it's a full-time job on top of a full-time job. So I'm not sure what you're just, oh yeah, but people just
Uh,
do those for fun. You're not going to be like a Joe Rogan. Well,
yeah.
one, I don't want to be a Joe Rogan. you
Yeah,
know,
totally.
I would love to
I,
have,
I I think that's funny though, because it also keeps people away from like not pursuing these creative things. And oh, great, you don't know that you could make it a career or that it is just beyond a little hobby. Kind of keep that knowledge. It's good.
yep. And that's what I'm hoping my kids see is like, I jumped back into a crazy new area at 48 years old. I just jumped.
Yeah,
I didn't even know how to use Zoom like within an hour of my first interview.
yeah,
I didn't realize you could record in separate audio tracks and how much easier it is to edit when you do that.
totally.
So I started learning all of this stuff, and it's just kept growing,
That's
you know?
cool.
So it's been amazing. And now I'm getting this year I was able to do a lot more of the people that I wanted to have on. Like I always had the choice, but there's certain people that looked good for the sponsors that I had. And this year my sponsors are down to one and they're very like standoffish. They don't really care as long as I keep my affiliate code on the link and occasionally say, the podcast is lit by Harlow.
There you go.
But yeah, man, it's so neat when you see people who jump into something 100% and give it everything, whether they're going to fail, whether they're successful, they're just doing it because they knew they had to try, you know?
Yeah.
And so do you remember when you made that choice? Like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to throw all my chips into one bag and give this thing a try.
Yeah, I've never really been the kind of person to throw it, all into one bag. But it was basically like, I was saying that that moment really was kind of pivotal for at least me beginning the pursuit. I bought just a little point and shoot digital camera, and I started messing around with it while I was there in LA, and then um, I think as I was taking like, my first photos on it, it was a self-discovery thing where I was like, this is so cool, like cameras are so awesome. And so I got really excited and passionate about it, but I didn't really know whether it was gonna be a career for me or where it was gonna go. I just kind of started, messing around basically, and then moved back to Canada. Um, and got back and was kind of just in a whirlwind of what just happened. I went down there like trying to become an actor or do this thing, and now I'm back home basically, and not sure what I'm gonna do next. So, but yeah, photography stayed consistent for a number of years until I, kind of really took it to the next level, which was, you know, again, I went down a few different life quests. I was like the manager of a nightclub for a bit at 19. So, I partied pretty hard and wasn't really focused on anything career-wise. And then the space became available in my hometown, like a really cool creative loft that a photographer had, and he was moving out. And I had borrowed gear off him a few times for little creative shoots and stuff. And he's like, "Hey man, if you want the space, you gotta call the landlord today." And it was like $1,100 a month, which was more than I had paid for rent. It was like a big undertaking. And so one of the bartenders at the bar that I was managing was also a friend of mine, and he was just finishing up the graphic design program. And I was like, "Hey, the space is available. It's really cool. Do you want to like start a creative agency in Nanaimo?" He's like, "Yeah, okay, let's do it. I'm gonna call the landlord." We literally just like called. We're like, "Can we meet you tomorrow?" And we got this space, and it was like that was really quite the undertaking to go and like take that risk of signing a commercial lease, and just kind of winging it. But we started a business doing graphic design and photography, and just kind of literally just went into it and to see what would happen. So
That's sometimes the best is just to do it. See what you can make of it. And it's part of this. I find this in a lot of photographers, even though we all talk about imposter syndrome and always worried about everything. A lot of times we're willing to take the chance on ourselves. We believe in what we do enough that we know we can make it happen. Right? Like I think now, like if anything happened because the economy's tough and my company isn't around anymore, that I work for, could I make it? And ask me 5 years ago, I'd be like, "Oh, that's going to be tough." But now, feel like I have so many more skills that yeah, I'll be able to make it. It may suck for a few months, but I'm going to figure it out. And it's
mhm.
it's cool to feel that way because I see so many people just talk about, oh, the glory days. Well, you can still have glory days at 50.
Yeah.
Some
I
of the
think
biggest.
I think what it is, if I think about that era, it's the same thing. Like your responsibilities are so low, like the set of bills that I had to pay, when I was 20, 21, 22 compared to now, it's like, that's where it becomes tricky. You go like, oh yeah, it was easy to just jump into something because you had no risk. Like if you failed, you're gonna just like go rent another apartment with a roommate or what, you know what I mean? Like it's now I have a kid as well. We have a mortgage and like all this stuff. I think about like, could I do that again? Could I really like just jump into a different career or like try something? And I think like ultimately what you're saying is, yeah, you can and it's totally possible. And it's like the fear just builds up. So um, I've thought about that a few times, when like work is a bit slow, I'm like, should I just like try something new, try something different? So
I'm gonna
I'm
go
with you.
work at the bakery.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It's weird when you're right. Like when I was that age, I think my rent was like 450 a month for a one bedroom apartment. And like I
Yeah.
was like I was
Yeah, you won't be
rolling.
finding that now.
And it
No.
was right like Oak Street in Vancouver, Oak and 13th,
Yeah.
450 a month, one bedroom, ground floor. And I thought everybody I knew lived with roommates, and I was like, I felt like so grown up because I was no roommates, nobody anymore. It's just me.
Oh, the freedom,
Yeah.
right?
I was like, well, I can get up and I don't have to worry about anyone else in my house. This is
Yeah,
weird.
it's a good
And
feeling.
yeah, never could go back after that. I always had to be be on my own.
See, it's like funny that you brought that up too, because I was like talking to someone in the last few months about this, how our situation of being able to sign that lease and take that risk at that age is almost impossible for the next generation to do.
Yep.
Like you're never going to find a, 2,500 square foot commercial space for $1,100, you know? And it's like, I do feel bad for the next generation because they don't get that opportunity to kind of like life is a lot harder. Bills are more expensive.
Yep.
Like, you don't get those opportunities the same way already. But
Yeah, I feel like kind of like the old dog in the fight because I didn't grow up with the internet. The internet came to me and I think it was like 97 or 98. I was already, man, by that time, I don't even know how old I was. Old enough. I was 23, I think, in 98. So it was like, okay, cool. What's this internet? All right, I figured out the internet. Learned how to build a website, ran an online bike shop that was successful. And I was like, cool. Like I could sell stuff overnight, go drink my coffee and ring people through and then order it and go pick it up in Point Roberts, which was at that time a block from my house. And I was making money. I was paying our mortgage just doing this while I got to be home with my son when he was newborn growing
it's
up.
crazy, right?
And could I do that now? Not a chance. The mortgage on my house is crazy.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where I have the fear is like, if I didn't have steady income, could I do it? But yeah, it would just suck
Yeah.
because everything is more expensive. I didn't grow up with YouTube, so YouTube's new. The kids at
Yeah.
least have this outlet where they can do it. The problem I have is I love tactile. I love magazines. I
Mm,
miss magazines. I
yeah.
miss VHS skate videos where you had to wait for a year to see bangers. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, I can go on Instagram right now and type in any of the top skaters and watch bangers all day long.
Yeah. No, it's different. But isn't it funny though? Because like I think magazines, VHS, all that stuff is coming back. I know it has been for a while, but even more so, like I've been trying to find a like an older like CRT TV with a VCR built into it,
Yeah.
just like so my daughter can watch like old, like VHS movies instead of watching, new stuff. Yeah, good luck finding one on Facebook Marketplace, like 300, $400 for one, and like they go super quick. It's because like people want that again. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to see like what is the future going to be like. Is technology going to keep going like this and everyone's going to follow along, or are people going to rebel about, and go the other way?
Well, I just saw recently two magazines that had gone defunct are now back in print. So we got Transworld Skateboarding's back,
Yeah, that one's sick.
and then Bike Magazine, which I mean, those are two
Oh,
things I still love. But does that mean we're going to get the Transworld Empire back? Are we going to get Transworld Snow? Are we going to get Transworld Surf? Like,
yeah.
are people finally realizing I hate reading on my iPad,
I think so. I
you
think
know?
that's what's happening.
And
Yeah. There's a magazine shop in Toronto that I really like called Issues Magazine Shop, and she brings in like really boutique, high quality print magazines. Like actually, I have one right here, like Serviette. I've shopped for these guys, but
nice.
like stuff like this, really nice print, good editorial, beautiful photography, and she's trying to kind of build a bit of a resurgence for print and like showing how awesome it can be. So I'm excited about that stuff too. Like, and you know, as a photographer, it's always I love flipping through the pages and like seeing the photography. You know, I don't want to scroll Instagram anymore. I don't want to be on the internet looking at photography. Like this is where it's meant to be. So I hope that I hope that the resurgence continues.
Me too. People always ask me if I'm going to ever like really focus my photography page, like my personal Instagram, and I'm like, I just can't. I'll post. I go on there and I'll maybe post, maybe a picture a month. Sometimes I'll post 10 if I have a good week. Um,
Yeah.
and the one for the show is, it's strictly there because it needs to be there,
Hmm.
and I don't go crazy on it. I started adding working with reels recently, and
Yeah.
that's weird, but there's so many things that out there, like the app Opus Clips makes my life easy. I don't have to think.
Yeah.
I don't have time with everything else going on. But now I don't like the way the page looks because there's these reels in it. So now, now you got to create another Instagram account just for reels because
Yeah,
people want to see
basically.
reels. So it's like this nonstop thing. And I'm so hypercritical of what I do that I really can't, I can't focus on anything else, but it doesn't look uniform and I don't like it.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I've had my ups and downs with social media. You know, like I was an influencer early on for a few years. When Instagram like first kind of came out, I got a bunch of followers from Instagram discovering my page and stuff. And so I kind of like went down that avenue for a while. So I feel like my relationship with social media is so what had been toxic. Now I just like I don't care, and I rarely, if I do post something, it's because you know it's to get visibility for getting more jobs at this point. But I do miss like the early days of Instagram were really about connection with people in real life. Like some of the lifelong friends that I have, some of the first companies that I work with in the States or elsewhere found me through that. And like I built lifelong relationships through Instagram. And that was the exciting part about social media when it first came out. Probably similar to like when the internet came out for you. It was like this thing is so exciting and like I want to feel a way to you know like use it or to interact with it in a meaningful way and that's what was exciting to me is like an you know as a photographer was here's a platform where I can like share the photos and people actually engage with it and also builds an actual community so it's too bad that now I just don't feel that anymore. I think it's kind of disappeared and it's too bad because it did have a lot of good at the beginning.
And yeah, I try to be super positive to people, whether it's just a like or a hey man, this is amazing. And I feel like this toxic keyboard warrior, you could say, kind of mentality has taken over. Like everybody wants to break people down, and I'm like, okay, well that's just not what I'm about. I'd much rather build a community of amazing people who are like, dude, that photo sucked ass, but man, I love it. Like that just are honest with you and you can take it because they're not being assholes. They're just being like, hey, you could maybe try this next time, giving you that little push that you need without writing a paragraph about how they can be a dick. And
Yeah.
I always finish everything with, community over competition is the hashtag I use all the time.
Hmm.
People bash me for it. Oh, competition's natural. Yeah, yeah, the competition is, but being a dick isn't,
Hmm. A
right?
100%.
So I consider almost, everybody who's been on my show as a friend. Like, I will be so supportive for everybody that I get to know. I love seeing people be successful. I don't look at it as anything to me except for they're showing me there's a way, there's a ladder, there's stepping stones. They're showing me that it's possible. And that's
Hmm.
all I need to see. But man, people who just go on to just have a negative outlook for their day, it must be
Hmm.
tiring just to be that
Yeah.
negative, you know? I just saw that
Just,
you follow Kimberly Kufus. I just actually recorded with her 2 days ago.
oh yeah, she's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. We one of some of my like earliest gigs were doing stuff with Destination BC, and she was she was actually a model on a shoot for like that I did for Blundstone, but it was also like in conjunction with Northern Vancouver Island tourism or something like that. So that's when we first met, but we've hung out a few times. She's awesome.
Yeah. I always go through and start looking at the like the mutual followers that we do. And it's
Yeah,
like it's pretty cool. Like Jillian Brown, she's on, I record with her in a week.
cool. That's awesome.
You know, Ruck's Life, Andre Charland, I was actually his team manager on a mountain bike team.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, Rux is awesome.
I didn't even know he owned it until his name happened to pop up, and I was like, "What? I
Yeah,
know that guy."
I didn't know either. Yeah.
So it's
It's a
it's
small world, right?
it is, man.
Yeah.
And the thing about being creative, if you have a mentality and get the reputation of being somebody that is easy to work with, loves what they do, and treats people with respect, I mean, sky's pretty much the limit for you.
I you absolutely just nailed it. I think the biggest lesson I've learned about this career is that it is all about relationships. It's about the working relationships. It's about the people you meet that you might not think could be your next client or, someone that you're going to work with on set. So, I think when I was a little younger, I didn't really understand that. But, the last 5, 6 years, that's been, my primary focus is to maintain and build good relationships with clients and collaborators and, anyone really who is a part of, my career or my network. It's a good rule of thumb to follow.
Yeah. I mean, you've worked with some amazing people. You know, like I love Huckberry, so I just saw that you
Yeah.
did something with Huckberry. Like to me, that's you made it right there, man. Like I love sitting there and just watching. I love what they put out. I love what they do. But like you start rolling through some of the things that you've accomplished, and you've done a lot. Do you have some
Yeah.
favorites in everything that you've put out? Do you have some that you could say were probably the funnest clients to work with or shoots to be on?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, Huckberry has been basically a lifelong client, one of my first big clients. And it came from, that early days of Instagram. I'd reached out. Huckberry only had, I think, like 20 employees in San Francisco out of a little office when I first started working with them. And I just reached out to the one of the creative marketing guys at the company, and I just, introduced myself, showed him what I was doing up here, and he was like, "Oh, I'm starting an ambassador program for Huckberry." So I actually became kind of like an ambassador. They don't have that program anymore, but it didn't really mean much more. Just like I was kind of a part of the crew and thought of for different projects. So I've gone on a few really fun shoots with those guys. One of them was we did their holiday. Each year they kind of go shoot somewhere for their holiday campaign. They shoot a bunch of content for that, and they're like, "We want to do it in BC," and I basically like helped them figure out the location and where we could find snow and where we could find like a cool cabin and all these things. And my friend has a lodge in Bella Coola called Furvale, and she's got like saunas and she's got yurts and totally fit the vibe, but also access to a helicopter to get up into the mountains and stuff. So as far as an epic trip, we did helicopter in the mountains, we did a float plane to a glacier lake, we did the sauna. It was just a week of fun, but also work, and it was finding that balance doesn't always happen, but that was a really good one. I've been really lucky. I've got to do a lot of different things, and I think it's because I've been very versatile as a photographer. I've never really niched into anything other than a bit of the outdoor world for a number of years. But by being versatile, I think it's opened up opportunities to, shoot kind of documentary style photography in Mexico or shoot an outdoor campaign, for Huckberry or do food and lifestyle for Square, like restaurant stuff. So, and I think for me as a photographer, that's kind of a part of my identity is photography is an outlet or a way for me to connect with different people and interests. And it has always opened up a door that I never expected. And I'm blabbing a little bit, but I always think back to people are always like, "How did you get a?" I shot a portrait of Nick Offerman, and it's like an iconic photo that he uses for his IMDb still.
That's incredible, by the way.
Yeah, and it's like the story of how that happened is so interesting, but also if you look at that portrait, you'd be like, that doesn't look like your photography or your style or what you do. But it's again, it's like I wanted the door to open to photograph him. And I was at a music festival and like kind of faked my way into these photo passes. And I knew he was going to be doing a comedy set there. And I really planned the whole weekend around trying to get this portrait of him. And so I was like lingering backstage waiting for him to come to do his comedy set. And his wife, Megan Mullally, showed up and I recognized her. And then Justin Long, like the guy that was in like all the Apple commercials and stuff. So it was like those two. And I was like, oh, cool. And, I was a little nervous, but I went up and just tried to make casual conversation with them. And it was like a total awkward, like, conversation. And then I basically was like, hey, like, I really want to get a photo of Nick, like a portrait. Like, if you see him, can you let him know? And she's like, Megan was like, oh, yeah, of course. Like, let me go grab him. And so she grabbed Nick and Nick came over and he's like, when I'm done my set, I'll give you 2 minutes to get a photo. And I was like, okay. So I like waited and waited. And then after the set, he like was talking to people and then he came down and he's like, oh, yeah, the photo, right? And I was like, yeah. I only took 3 photos. I put them against a white tarp and it looks like a studio photo because it looks like a white backdrop. And I just like said, give me your like Ron Swanson American face or something like that. And I got this portrait.
I'm looking at it right now, by the way.
Oh yeah. It was a long time ago. So it's like, I try to make it look I was playing around in Photoshop trying to make it look kind of like an old timey photo. But anyway, I tweeted it to him because like that's the only way I thought to get a hold of him. So I tweeted, I was like, hey, Nick Offerman, nice to meet you. Here's the portrait I took of you. I didn't hear anything back. He didn't reply to it, whatever. I was like, cool. I tried. I got the photo at least. That's so cool. And then like a few months later, his manager reached out, was like, hey, Nick like absolutely loves this photo. It's his favorite. Like we want to buy it off you or whatever. And I know we've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole here, but like the fact that like I made that opportunity happen just by being at the right place at the right time, kind of thinking about that I wanted this portrait of an actor at the time. I loved Parks and Rec, so I was like, I really want to get a portrait of this guy. And then like, full circle coming around and him buying the photo and using it. Yeah, I guess it's just like comes back to that versatility. It was like I opened up the door using my camera. I got this opportunity that kind of like opened up other doors into shooting musicians and other people, right? So yeah, anyway, just I always love telling that story because it's kind of like it's a part of the reason why I love shooting so much is that you never know where these opportunities are going to come from and like a life experience is going to come just from having this camera and having this ability to use your eye. So that's what I love about it.
I mean, that just, if that doesn't show people that sometimes we just have to ask for what we want in a roundabout way, and sometimes the stars align, sometimes they don't, but every time you make that action, that motion of doing it, it gets easier. And I know from this show in the beginning, rejection sucked. It was the hardest part. I had lots of people in the beginning go, I have no clue who you are. No, thanks.
Yeah.
And now getting emails from them going, hey man, can I get on the show?
Yeah.
And I think it's cool and I love it. I'm
Yeah.
like, that proves that I'm putting myself out there enough that they're seeing it. They're seeing the work. And like that photo's you couldn't ask for a cooler photo. Like just
Yeah, it's
everything
so
about it,
awesome.
man. It is good.
Yeah.
Um,
I've always been like proud of that one because of the backstory, but also obviously he's like an iconic character of his own, right? So,
yeah. Any advice for people just getting into they really want to get into this style of photography and I love the fact that you said don't pigeonhole yourself with one style. When I started, everybody said to me like, you have to pick a style and perfect it. Well, I mean, yeah, okay, cool. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be a wildlife photographer because British Columbia, full of wildlife. Like I have such a problem with the way people treat animals.
mm,
I'm indigenous from Merritt, and for me, people would always be like, "Did you just thank the animal?" Because I'd always thank the animal for giving me that moment,
yeah.
and I always thank Mother Earth for allowing
Thank
me
the
to
land. Yeah, I
exactly.
understand that philosophy.
And then you see people throw rocks at nocturnal owls to try to get them to open their eyes or fly in the daytime. Well, you're killing that bird. They're not designed for this. Why? And then 500 people with the same photo. So I
Yeah.
finally, a few years ago, I was just like, came home, lens up on Facebook Marketplace, gone. And,
Yeah. That's
I,
interesting that you've had that experience because I don't think a lot of people would know that or even talk about that as being a thing. But I think in the community, it's not the first time I've heard those stories. And I mean, there's obviously like a famous BC photographer who was feeding wolves on the ocean to get the shots, And so, yeah, those things happen. And you're right. It's like it's kind of like a disgusting thing that people don't even know about.
and that's when I transitioned, I transitioned over to shooting more street and landscape and stuff that I didn't have to see another person, because I'm at the point in my life where I am not going to bite my tongue.
Hmm.
If I don't agree, if I watch you terrorizing a small bird to get a photo that you're going to put on Instagram, I'm going to let you know how I feel.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? So I try to be. I'm learning portraiture. Portraiture is my thing for the year. So I have a
Cool.
project coming out, but I'll get into that in a minute. Um, so yeah, advice, wisdom, things that you've learned in these years of doing it that may help somebody kind of get a step up and avoid.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's a tough one because like although I've chosen this versatile route, I don't think it's always played out that well. I do think niching can be a good thing, especially if you're passionate about a specific aspect of photography. I think niching in that and being the best in that field can be very good for your career. But with pigeonholing into anything, you you might lose a little bit of the love for why you shoot photos. So I think keeping things interesting by trying new types of photography is a good thing. Especially like I think back to the early days when I was shooting, for a little creative agency, and I would shoot like studio stuff with the flashes and product and all these things that may not be that interesting, like the e-commerce stuff. But now that I'm shooting a bit more food these days with lights, that that kind of knowledge I gained from doing those e-com shoots really helps me now. And so I think when you do try different things that you might not even know that you're interested in, you'd be surprised on how it might help you in your other forms or other interests in photography. So, and then as for on the career side, if that's kind of the route that you're going for, and I think that's actually a big decision whether that photography for you is a creative outlet that you don't want to mix business with. I think that you should be clear on that and pursue it for the love of the art and the craft. But there's a whole other side to photography which I play in and I have basically since day one, which is the commercial side. And it can be a really rewarding career, and you can still have um, the opportunity to, use photography creatively, still fulfills your personal kind of passions, but it's also can be like a career. That said, I think my advice that I wish I gave myself is to know that this career is always peaks and valleys, and you're going to have some highs and you're going to have some lows. And if you don't prepare yourself, for the low times, you know, you might not make it. That's just the case. I've seen a lot of people over the years not be able to handle when, you know, there's 6 months where you haven't had very many jobs and you're behind on your bills. And nobody talks about that. You know, during that time, you don't, you'll see a lot of people on LinkedIn or on different places kind of hinting that they're looking for work because that's just how it goes, ups and downs. And so ride the waves and hope for the best.
That's such good advice, man. Nobody talks about the bad times. And
Yeah.
that's what one of my biggest issues is with social media is that everybody is seeing everybody's perfect times. They're not seeing when, you know, you got 35 grand in credit card debt and you're trying to figure out how to make that payment, or you got a mortgage payment coming, car
Yeah.
note, you know, you've got
Yeah.
all these things. Your furnace just broke down, your hot water tank just exploded.
Yeah.
Christmas is
No.
coming. You got 6 kids to feed. Like people don't nobody sees this stuff.
Nobody. And that is the hard part about social media is like even I'm guilty for it. I'll go on and see other photographers. I'm like, oh, they're busy on a shoot or they just posted this new work. And I'm like, I haven't had a job in like a month. I'm like, what the heck's going on, you know? But then you realize it's like, oh, the time that I'm posting the most on Instagram or on these places is when I'm slow. So you have to imagine that other people are in the same boat. They're just not talking about it. And that's just how it is.
Yeah. And being a realist when you get into it and you know, don't, from what I've learned from talking to the people I've spoken to in the last 70, 80 shows that are out, um, a lot of people assume that you make it when you have, say you win like the Red Bull Illume. Yeah, that's a pretty prestigious award. Or, you know, you have a Nat Geo show and you have your whole episode about you. And people think you make, I'm talking about Crystal, right? Crystal will know that. She's
Yeah.
incredible. She's an amazing, amazing person. But when I was chatting with her, she's like, yeah, you know, like I still hustle just as hard, actually, probably harder now. And, you know, people assume that I'm just getting phone calls for jobs. I can tell you a year ago, I was shoveling rock for my brother's construction company to make ends meet,
Yeah. Isn't that interesting, right?
right? So, you know, you have to be willing to take the good and the bad and everything that's thrown your way and understand when you're not busy, it's just part of this journey,
Hmm.
you know? And when you are
And
busy,
knowing what to do with that time. And that's actually something really now I have a baby as well now and learning about how much time you have at the end of the day. It's not as much as it used to be, but when you are slow, like what do you do with that time? And I've been, you know, guilty of just kind of like waiting for the next gig to come in, but like shooting personal work during that time is so important. It's important to like advance your portfolio, but also to attract new clients. You know, personal development. I take some you know, do like little online courses that people sell and things just to kind of like take that downtime as actually this is an important time to still be working on your career in a different way. And then when the jobs come in again, you're gonna be so busy you can't, you know, you can't focus on that stuff. So
yeah. Another question for you. What,
mhm.
how do you deal? Like all of us who are in the creative space, we suffer burnout. We get to a point where burnout is real. Like, you know,
Yeah,
I picked up my camera for the first time yesterday in probably 6 months.
yeah.
And I made a crazy commitment to drop from 50 megapixels down to an older 24 megapixel, 28 millimeter fixed lens camera. That's the only thing I'm shooting for the next year.
Wow. That's
And
cool.
it's not, I've always been a like a 80, 90 mil shooter.
Hmm.
I love that compression. So trying to get used to shooting, especially with my project coming out that's portrait with a 28 mil. So I'm a little nervous about it, but you know what? It's also part of the growth. It's a
Absolutely.
challenge that, you know, people are going to look at it and they're going to be like, "Oh, you bought the camera so you could take pictures at coffee shops," because that should give away what brand it is. But,
Yeah.
you know, um I just I have so many friends that shoot the brand and rave about the brand itself, not the quality of the gear, but the history of the company. And that inspired me to look into it. And I started to read and learn, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. And then I start seeing amazing people shooting portraits with 28 mil, and I'm like, oh my goodness, how did they do that? So this has
Hmm.
got me excited again to shoot photos and learn.
That's cool that
So
you set your own challenge for that. I'm guilty of not challenging myself enough these days. So I have a lot of cameras collecting dust for that reason. But early on, I used to just shoot with just a 50 millimeter lens, like for everything. And I don't do that anymore. But what it taught me was the versatility of like learning to step back to get a frame, moving closer to get a different frame. Like you could shoot a portrait, or you can like you have to back way up, or you can get kind of like a landscape shot with a 50. And so I was constantly like moving around to get that. But I think with a 28 mil and doing portraits, yeah, it's like that is a difficult, it's not a traditional way of capturing portraits. So you're going to be always playing with framing to make it interesting, or to gain a different perspective. But I'm a fan of 28 mil, especially street photography, where you kind of have like the subjects like on the far left, but there's like things going on in the background, and you know you could create a lot of interest and still make it like a portrait, which is cool.
yeah, and I suffered from not challenging myself enough. I was very fortunate. Some of my first photos got some interest, and I sold some, a decent amount of prints from them. And I was like, oh, I made it. Nope, definitely haven't. But I wanted something that was older, that didn't have the latest, like I had a Z9 from Nikon. Like
Mm,
there's nothing that camera couldn't do.
yeah.
And like if I didn't get focus right, don't worry, the camera took care of it.
Yeah, totally.
Right. So when I started talking to Kieran Carnani at Harlow about my project idea, um, we were going back and forth, and I said, you know what, I really want to do it on a Q. I just really want to do it on an original Q,
Hmm.
not the new ones, not the big megapixels, something that one I can afford, and
Hmm.
two, something that still delivers amazing images, but it's going to challenge me.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
I was going to continue a project they're doing, which is candid street portraits on a corner with one of their lights. My friend Sean
Hmm.
Bruce is doing it in New York right now. And originally it was all cool, like, hey, yeah, awesome, Canada's getting involved. And I was going to find photographers in pretty much every city that I knew. And I'm going to be like, hey, I'm coming to your city, and we're going to go shoot candid portraits. I'm going to film it while you shoot.
Cool.
And like that was the original plan. So I started getting everything together. And all of a sudden she calls me and says, that's not your brand. Your brand is about supporting community of creators. And I was like, okay. She's like, let's figure out a way to work it into so it's more of your branding and what you've been building with the show. So now it's called the Photography Heals Your Soul Project, because
Hmm.
that's what P.H.Y.S stands for. My
I
camera
didn't know
was,
that.
yeah. So it actually used to be a fixed gear bicycle brand, back in the early mid 2000s. My
Okay.
my best friend and I started it. It was called Pedal Harder, You Sissy. Um, but it was something
I like that.
that,
That's great.
yeah,
Yeah.
we used to wear the shirts. So we'd pass road bikers on our track bikes, and the
Oh
shirts
yeah.
would be on, and we'd be
Oh
like,
man. I
you
mean,
know,
like honestly, like me and all my friends in East Van, like in our 20s, all were on fixies, and we would like go do bike packing trips on fixies, and everyone thought we were crazy.
yeah.
It's
So
yeah.
it really meant a lot. Like the name, the amount of time we put into designing our own frame and our own hub sets with Phil Woods, and like all the stuff we had plans to do, and obviously no money to do it, but we tried.
Hmm.
When I was looking for a name for the show, I was like asking him questions like, dude, I got to use the name. Like, how can I make this work? And I'm like, do I make it a bike podcast so we can continue? Which I have. I have a bike podcast as well called Ride Bikes Get Rad.
Nice.
Um, and I was sitting there looking at it, and I'm thinking like, okay, well, I found the camera. My mom had just passed away, and my ex-wife had just overdosed, like, and then passed. And like, I need something that's going to help me get out of this slump. And I was like,
Damn.
I love photography. And then I started thinking like, okay, well, my camera's kind of become my therapist. I could leave and I could be gone for hours and I could talk to my camera and I could talk to nature and I would always come back happier.
Hmm.
And I was like looking at the letters. I start, you start trying to figure out what the letters could mean, and the photography heals your soul works perfect. And
My
I was,
God, man, this is like you're making me like kind of tear up here, but like you don't. I've never thought of photography to have that much of a deep meaning,
yeah,
but like what you're saying is so true. Like when you're not feeling well, there is something about just walking out with a camera and like taking photos that
yeah,
is healing. So
yeah.
I imagine that must have been like a nice thing to have during those times.
Well, COVID hit, and I was off work because I was working for Giant Bicycles at the time, and um, nobody knew what COVID was going to be. My wife was freaking out. Like, you got to come home now. So many more people just died. Like, come home. I was like, whatever. Okay, cool. Like, they couldn't tell us we couldn't go home if we didn't know what was going on. So I was home for 3 months, and I live on like a floodplain. So I have trails and everything right. Basically, I go into the neighborhood behind me and I'm in the trails. So I just started walking every day, 8 hours a day with my camera, wandering through trails. And I learned I learned how to shoot photos so quick. It was like a crash course in quickness, but I always came home happy.
Hmm.
And I hadn't felt that for a few years.
Hmm.
So it's insane how being able to get out and capturing a moment or capturing, I use the same example. I was going through a really bad time and I hadn't been able to take a photo. Nothing was clicking. I walked into an alleyway and there was the big tall blue recycle bins.
Hmm.
It had this big Mr. T type chain with lock holding it to a pole. And I
Hmm.
laughed because I was like, who would steal a garbage can?
Yeah.
But it had graffiti all over it. And so I took that photo and I was like, instantly, I'm going to take photos of garbage cans with graffiti.
Nice.
So I started doing that for, 3 months. I just started capturing all of these images of garbage cans with graffiti on them. And so fast forward to now, I credit the camera with a ton. When I talk to my therapist, the first question, have you shot your camera lately? Because it's important to you.
Hmm.
And I'm like, no, that's right. Therapy is not a bad thing, people. Uh,
Hmm.
but now with this project, the whole goal is I'm actually going to go capture a candid portrait of the creator. So people that have been on my show.
Mm.
And then we're going to do what Harlow is now called the Harlow handoff. So they have a light they released this year called the Soul.
Mm. Okay.
So I'm going to light the creator with the soul, take the photo. I'm going to hand them the soul to capture another creator, an athlete, a model, a candid street portrait, an environmental shot, whatever it is that they want to capture. And then
Hmm.
they're going to be faced in a book with the descriptions and the write up on
Mm.
on the artist.
That's cool. That's really cool.
So that's the goal now. And I don't know portrait work. I'm not a portrait shooter, and
You're gonna learn real quick.
I'm gonna learn fast.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So
Wow.
you'll see me on the Sunshine Coast at some point.
Okay, good. Yeah,
And
you'll have to keep in touch.
oh, dude, for sure, man. I'm grateful
Yeah.
that we got finally connected and through I can't remember her name. I even did it professionally. I contacted your representation.
Oh, Lindsay.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know. So, that was a weird experience for me. I'd never had to go through that kind of channel before, like to contact your rep. And I was like, just because I saw it, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do this right.
Well, it's so funny because I think so I just signed with her in September.
Yeah.
And I think your email was the first like contact that had gone through to her. So she's like, "Hey, I got a gig thing coming up for you." I was like, "Oh, cool. Like this was quick." I think it was like really honestly in the first week or
Oh,
something.
wow.
And then she was like, "Oh, it's like a podcast. Like, do you want to go on it?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome. Like, cool." So it's yeah, no, you were the first test.
There you go, man. It
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
So, like any final words of wisdom?
Oh, I mean, at the end here, you kind of enlightened me with the power of photography. And I think that if you are in a slump, or if you are, feeling burnout, which does happen, and we didn't really even touch upon that too much, but I have had my experiences with burnout as well. And maybe this advice actually would be good for me right now too, a little bit, but pick up a camera and just go do the thing that makes you the most happy with photography. And I think like sometimes it's as simple as just a forest walk, like you said, or going out on the street. It doesn't have to have an end goal. It doesn't have to be posted online. It could be just for you. And that's sometimes where you like really feel the best with photography, is when there's no purpose behind it. And I'm guilty for like literally looking at my cameras sitting on my desk and like leaving the house to go do something and not bringing them. And it's good practice to do that. So
Yeah. Man, there's nothing like it. I carry a camera with me through burnout. Doesn't matter. I have my bag. And that's really what I do. I goes in my bag every day. It goes to work with me, comes home. We went to Indigenous craft fair yesterday to grab some Christmas gifts. It was around my neck. I shot 2 photos inside the place. But it is what it is. And one thing that I found that really works with that whole burnout is trying to find something that is kind of challenging.
hmm
Zone focus, manual focus, shoot
hmm
from the hip.
hmm
Don't even know what's
Yeah.
in focus. Just something to just maybe spark you when you look at it on your computer later,
Yeah.
right?
That was always not to touch too deep on this, but that was what film photography did for me. Like, early on, like, 10 plus years ago, bought my first film camera. And that process of photography is so different than what we're used to in the digital world, um, because you don't get the immediate result. So when you're out shooting, you get all the good feeling of like, oh, I know I got a good shot there. I know I got. You're gonna wait like 2 weeks before you see those
Yeah.
photos, and like that feeling is honestly uh my favorite with photography. Like I love getting like my film developed and getting to see it after. And also, if you're looking for a challenge, go shoot film, and you're gonna learn from your mistakes real quick.
One of the things I started doing with my previous camera, because like the screen could flip around and you couldn't see it, I would leave
That's
it
a good trick.
flipped in.
Yeah,
With the camera I have now, I just turn the screen off and I don't allow myself to hit the play button to see the image.
that's
Uh,
good practice.
and I
Yeah,
look at it
I
like
love that.
kind of a film scenario, like 36 is my maximum images to capture for that walk. If I hit 36 and I still find something else, I have to stay true to this goal, because right now I'm trying to work that creative juices back. And, you know, even though that shot might have been the banger, it wasn't in that 36, because that's what would happen if I had a film camera and didn't have another roll of film.
Totally. Yeah, I
And
think that's a good idea.
yeah, man, and just trying to
Yeah,
keep
good
myself
challenge.
excited.
Hmm
With now that the show's become comfortable, I'm super comfortable doing what I'm doing. Um, except for the editing sucks. It takes forever. And I really don't edit much. I just clean up background noises and that's about it. But it still takes multiple hours
Yeah.
to listen to it, to play it back, to make sure I got it all.
Yeah.
And
No, people don't understand that side of it. That's why I was like, you see YouTube channels and stuff. I'm like, they spent like a week editing that video. Like it's not an easy process.
and
Yeah.
it's I love it. And I'm every week right now I'm releasing an episode. And
Wow.
and that's I've got it with I think I think with yours I have a year's worth of episodes.
Damn.
So
Good job.
I'm just gonna
You're cruising.
release. Well, I want to take a break for this project. I want to give the project the time it deserves.
Hmm
So I want to edit a whole bunch and have them ready to go. So they're already scheduled. I don't have to think about it for a few months. It's already there. I know they're going to come out every Wednesday at 12:01 a.m. They're coming
Exactly.
out. I'm not stressing. I've been last minute. Like I've had some go out an hour late because I got up at 5 in the morning to edit a complete episode and record an intro before it goes out,
Yeah.
And I just I don't want to do that. I don't want to stress about it. I want to enjoy the craft and I want to build my portfolio.
Yeah.
Because even if this show ends, in a year,
Yeah.
once all these episodes are done and I can't find anybody else, which is practically impossible because there's so many amazing creative people.
Hmm.
Um, I can have this time to build my portfolio and continue the work I want to continue while having this amazing group of friends now in this industry where I can bounce ideas off of, they can bounce ideas off me. We can just
Hmm.
kind of make things, a community. And that's
Yeah.
in the end really what it's all about.
Yeah, I would love to see like you do a episode, kind of like a recap of almost what you've learned from talking to the variety of people. Because I think it'd be like so interesting to have like every photographer is different. They shoot a different, approach. They have a different backstory. But you being able to kind of dissect like what the common points were and like what you took away from it. And I think people would find that probably pretty fascinating.
It's funny because I have 3 video ideas that I'm gonna do. Talking head stuff. One of them is pretty similar to that, just about my experience over the last 2 years
Hmm.
from a nervous, super nervous dude trying to I never wanted to be in front of people. I never wanted to be a public speaker. I never wanted to do any of that. And, I've spoken in front of a fine arts photography majors course class and I taught them for 2 hours. And then they
Wow.
did a whole project on my style of shooting. And I came back when it was done and I got to speak to every individual artist at their photos and hear what they saw and let them know what I caught my attention first,
Yeah.
without,
I'd be nervous.
dude, it was
Yeah.
weird. But,
Yeah.
my voice is unique and it's given me, I've read for voiceover work. I've read for a Marvel cartoon. Like what?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
people want to use the voice. I've done ads for people.
Yeah.
So for
I
me,
mean,
it's
you were born for this. Yeah.
appreciate that. So for
Yeah.
me, I want to learn how to really capitalize on what I have, and that's my voice. So let me capitalize on how to do ads for people. Let me do voiceover work. Let me figure out these other things that can potentially bring in revenue to free me up to allow me to continue to enjoy what I'm doing. So part of the video is just talking about how it took me 30 episodes to get comfortable, but how now I no longer have a sheet I send out to ask questions. And I have a
Yeah.
lot of people who are super, oh, you don't have any questions? No.
I
Because I want,
prefer just like conversation anyway,
yeah. And that's what people seem to love. I mean, we've grown
Yeah.
from, man, I remember after episode 15, I hit 100 listens on an episode. And I was like, oh, dang, this is crazy. 100.
That's cool. I mean, it's great practice. I love street photography. I don't do it very often, but when I went to New York and I have a Leica M6, which is like obviously a very like street camera, and I went out practicing zone focusing, but like shooting people on the streets of New York is so different than anywhere else. Like people are used to it, like people being in their face. I never had anyone be like, "What are you doing?" Like I would just go up and take the shot. And there's so many people. But then like trying that in other places, it's a different experience. People aren't used to getting their photo taken in like a street scenario, and they always have questions. So yeah, I don't ask permission very often to take people's photo out in public. And the only reason is because I found the moment to disappear. Something that I found interesting about that person or what they're doing disappears once I tell them that I want to take their photo or what I'm doing. They change everything about themselves, and then the moment's over. So what I found is like I just take the photo and then I look to see their response after it's already been taken. And if they look like they're curious about what I'm doing, I'll say, "Hey, like I just got this photo of you. I thought what you were doing there was really interesting. Like here it is." Or if it's film, like I'm gonna send this to you when it gets developed. And usually that like goes over pretty well. So that's been my experience.
Oh, man. This has been amazing, dude. I'm so
Yeah,
grateful to have met you. I
it's
look
been a
forward to
pleasure.
catching up and, shooting the shit and seeing where your career takes you. And where's the best place for people to find you?
Oh, I mean, after all this, I'd say Instagram's a great place. Uh, Yeah, at Shayd_Johnson there. And then my website I'm trying to keep most updated for the work that I think is interesting. So it's www.xshadx.com.
Amazing, man. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been my pleasure to have you on, listening to your, just having that conversation, man. That's what this whole show's about. It's about, just, it turns into, hey, here we are. This is who we are. Listen to the show. Like, you'll get to know more about us as people, not about the fact that, we shoot Leicas, or that we shoot Nikons, or that we shoot a Canon, or we shoot large format. It's about us. It's about us becoming, people get to hear us become friends on the show.
Yeah.
Get to learn about each other, right? And that's the part that, when I figured out that little twist to what I was doing, that's when everything became easier.
I love it. It's been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. I'll send you a copy before it goes live.
Cool.
I'm not sure when it's going to be, but it's going to be sometime.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. No, it's been great. I would love to also, I mean, like, I think it'd be really cool if you incorporated some sort of like, hey, before you come on the show, like the day before or something, like go out and shoot like a few photos.
Yeah.
And then you go out and shoot a few photos. So it's like keeping you shooting. You're just like, here's the 3 or 4 photos that I shot yesterday, and like just talk about them briefly. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Well, as it goes video, so I'm going to try in the new year to do a lot more video related, because everybody wants video now.
Yeah.
That's an amazing idea. I didn't even think of that. Like,
yeah, fair enough. I mean, right now it's just like a audio podcast, but yeah, I think when you go on YouTube, I think it'd be so cool to like be able to kind of, because it is photography, see some of the images that we're taking and talk about them a bit.
Yeah, explain. I like that, man. Thank you. I'm going to steal your idea.
Great.
All right, bro. Enjoy the rest of your day. And
yeah, we'll talk soon.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah, man. Talk to you soon. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the P.H.Y.S Podcast. If this conversation inspired you, taught you something, or made you see the world a little differently, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Follow us on all social medias at P.H.Y.S_Podcast to stay connected with future episodes, behind-the-scenes content, and the growing creative community around the show. And remember, as always, photography heals your soul. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.